Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, I'm bringing you guys a 10-team mock draft, which is standard on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. Someone asked me down below in the comments to do this, so I'm going to do it for them. So it is basically going to be random, pretty much, what you guys comment. I'm just going to pick one of those from the comments and try to do a mock draft every single day. Now, right now, my power is still not back. I'm recording this in the dark in my room right now. Literally can only see the screen. And there's going to be no face cam because the face cam just obviously are not going to be able to see me because there's literally no lights on at all. And I'm going to have to go upload this at my girlfriend's house. So once my power comes back, we're going to get back to 2 videos every single day. But for now, it's probably just going to be 1. I think tomorrow's video was made by Tyler since I probably will not have power until the weekend. So let's get right into this. This is a 10-team mock draft from the 9th overall spot. It is a standard league. The roster positions go as follow: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. They requested 7, but since my computer's at 50% and I have to record a whole video here without it being plugged in, we're going to just have to do it this way. I'm drafting up against the composite ADP from Fantrax, from My Fantasy League, Fantasy Football Calculator, and composite best ball ranking, so that we can go ahead and try to get the best looking more accurate kind of draft for your 2020 fantasy football draft. So at any point in this video, if you end up enjoying, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. It's free and I produce content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 fantasy football championship. And like I said, once my power is back up and running, these videos are going to be flying out very, very fast. And I'd also like if you guys could please go down below and check out my draft guide. It is $7.50 for the month of August. All the rankings and all that will be updated as soon as I get my power back. They said it could be the 10th. They're saying it might be tomorrow, might be the next day. So I will try and get that out for all of you guys. So this is on the Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. So we are drafting up against the computer so that it could go a little bit faster. I would go ahead and draft on another website, but I want to make sure that I can get this done in a timely manner. So if we look at the draft board, the first couple of picks of the draft, regardless of if it's standard, PPR, half PPR, are pretty much exactly the same. We see CMC, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, and then we see Derrick Henry move up to the 4th spot. Typically, that's where we would see Alvin Kamara, running back of the New Orleans Saints. But hey, at the end of the day, this is a standard league, so Derrick Henry really gets the boost. I could see Derrick Henry going inside the top 3 in a lot of standard fantasy leagues due to the fact that the guy is just a beast on the ground. After that, we see Michael Thomas and Devontae Adams, followed by Dalvin Cook. So nothing too out of the ordinary here. Personally, especially in a standard league, I'm not looking at all to try to draft a wide receiver early. I think you just find a lot of wide receivers later, even in standard and half PPR and full PPR, but especially in standard, I'm really trying to load up on those running backs. So we're going to go ahead and click hide the drafted players and go ahead and look at the running backs still available. Right now, we see Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who is really screaming up draft boards due to the fact that Damian Williams actually did end up opting out of the season. So now we're to see CEH be the head honcho back in that Kansas City system, which, as we know, is a very high scoring system. So we're going to go ahead and draft our player here. So we're at the 9th spot, and this is a 10-team league, so this is where I actually really like to draft. Considering you're drafting on the turn, now you're not the exact turn. The turn pick is the 10 pick because then you pick 1.10, and then you pick 201. Which actually is more ideal to me. But in this pick, I get one of my favorite running backs, and that's running back Joe Mixon. I've talked about him a million times. Why do I like Joe Mixon? It's pretty plain and fucking simple. The guy is going to get a zillion touches on the ground. They have an improved offensive line. They're going to have an improved team in 2020, and I think is going to be more prone to dumping him off the ball, as well as having an overall better team with Joe Burrow under center. So 2 of the running backs that I actually would have wanted have came off the board after our pick, Josh Jacobs and Nick Chubb. 2 guys really great in standard, since they're really run-heavy running backs. So right now, it is kind of confusing what to do here, since it is a standard league. Do I want CEH, who I believe will be a pass-heavy catching monster, but he should also be able to get a lot of touches on the ground due to Damian Williams opting out? Or do I want Kenyon Drake, a guy who I think is going to be able to do it both on the ground and through the air? Or do I want Austin Eckler, who's kind of like CMC light-esque with the amount of receptions he's going to get? So to me, even in a standard league, the pick here is Austin Eckler. I wouldn't even argue that Miles Sanders, CEH, Kenyon Drake, any of those guys is a worse pick than Austin Eckler, but just for me, I really like the safety of Austin Eckler. I really think they're going to try to run the whole ball a whole lot this year, and even though you don't get points per reception, you're still getting the points for the 1,000+ probably receiving yards that we're to see Austin Eckler get this season in 2020. So now we are up now at the 309 through 2 rounds of the draft, we obviously have Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler. So now it's time to look at the draft board to see what happened after we made our pick of Austin Eckler. After Austin Eckler, we see Tyreek Hill, Patty Mahomes, Julio Jones, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Hopkins, Lamar Jackson, Chris Godwin, Travis Kelce, CEH, George Kittle, Kenyon Drake, Kenny Galladay, Todd Gurley, Mike Evans, and Amari Cooper. Now, I am very much on the wave of not drafting a quarterback in like the second or third round at all. But if you want to draft Patrick Mahomes, you want Lamar Jackson on your team, you're going to have to pull the trigger around the second or third round to go ahead and get that guy. Pat Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, kind of interchangeable as the quarterback one in fantasy football. Some people like Lamar more, some people like Patrick Mahomes more. To me, it's kind of a silly debate because they're both just so good that it's pretty much impossible to figure out who will probably have the better season. To me, it's Patrick Mahomes, but I would understand drafting Lamar Jackson there. After that, in the third round, we saw both the big tight ends come off the board in Travis Kelce and George Kittle. I think that's going to be very typical as well. After those big two quarterbacks kind of go, they go around the same area in the second or third round. Now, Dr. Edwin Porras talked on Twitter about George Kittle and how that injury he had is kind of similar to another player's, but except for George Kittle didn't end up getting surgery on it. So there is kind of some worries about George Kittle's injury. And I would actually like to get Dr. Edwin Porras on here to talk once I get my power back. I'm going to probably DM him on Twitter to try to get you guys some more information on that. So Amari Cooper, also a pick that I really hate in the third round. I just don't think he's consistent at all. Same thing goes with Todd Gurley. Now, the opt-out period has ended when you're watching this, but it hasn't ended as I'm recording this. Todd Gurley said he may opt out. And so if he has opted out, this pick is completely awful. If he doesn't opt out, the pick is still awful because I really just don't believe in him. So like I said, through the first 2 rounds of the draft, we have Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler. So now it is time to probably select another running back or a wide receiver, depending who is on the board. Now, this is a standard league, so the running backs are going to be very key to winning this league, but you also need some wide receivers. So we'll probably go ahead and wait on the running back since we are only picking 2 picks after this or 3 picks after this. So we can go ahead and snag a wide receiver that I really like this season, and that is Allen Robinson. Actually, big psych with that. I actually like another player slightly better than him, and that is DJ Moore, wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers. Now, Allen Robinson might be slightly better in a standard league because I think he has more opportunity to get yards and potentially more touchdowns. So that's why I'm actually going to lean him over DJ Moore. If this was half PPR or full PPR, to me, the pick is easy, and it is Mr. DJ Moore. But we're going to go ahead here and select Allen Robinson of the Chicago Bears. Now, I just think the offense is going to be flying this season with 9-inch Nick Foles as the starting quarterback, just far superior in my opinion to Kiss and Titties Mitchell Trubisky. So we're gonna go ahead here and draft Mr. Allen Robinson, who's done it with so many garbage quarterbacks. He did it with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville, did it with Kiss and Titties Trubisky last year, and Nick Foles should be that uptick to Mr. Kiss and Titties Trubisky. So after we went ahead and selected Mr. Allen Robinson, James Conner came off the board, which is kind of early for James Conner, even though the 4th round is probably where we're going to see him picked a lot. Considering he was a first-round draft pick this year or last season, he's really fallen off due to the fact that he is very injury prone. I don't expect him to play a full 16 games, but when he's healthy, he's going to be very great for your lineup, especially with Big Ben returning this season to being healthy. So after James Conner, we see Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen, also a very solid pick, should be a guy getting a whole lot of receptions from Mr. You Like That, Kirk Cousins. So now it is time for us to pick our next player. So we already have 2 running backs. We have 1 wide receiver, but I think we're going to go ahead and get our 3rd running back because the running backs just fly off the board. There's going to be guys in the 5th, 6th round, especially in a 10-team league that I really like at the wide receiver position. Guys like Terry McLaurin, DJ Chark, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, all guys that will likely be there in the 5th round, but the running backs that are going to be there are just guys that I don't like as much. I do really like Jonathan Taylor, but for the first 4 games, I don't really like him all that much because I think it'll take a couple of games for him to emerge past Marlon Mack as the guy. So right here to me, the pick is Leonard Fournette. Now, Leonard Fournette is the most anti-sexy pick. He's like if you opened up a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model and it was a bunch of dudes that were just they just had the dad bod. Now, some women like the dad bod. I probably have more of a dad bod than like a skinny bod, even though I'm like fucking 5'10", 150. I got them titties, you know what I'm saying? We got that milk. So Leonard Fournette, with that said, is not a sexy pick. He's not a guy that you go ahead and draft and you're like, damn, he's going to get 100 targets again just like last year. I don't see that at all, but I do see the Jacksonville defense being so shit that they're just going to have to dump the ball off to him and give him the ball, and I think he works well with Gardner Minshew, so I think we see another great year out of Leonard Fournette. Nothing like a top 10 finish, but I think top 15 is in his wheelhouse for the season. I think Chris Carson is also another excellent pick in a really run-heavy Seattle offense, but I'm going to go ahead here and diversify and pick Mr. Leonard Fournette. I believe you should diversify. In some leagues, you might not want to draft the same guy in every single league because even if your hunch is that this guy is amazing, I really love Tyler Boyd. I try to get him in every league, but I'm not going to own him in every single league because if my call on Tyler Boyd is wrong, then I'm going to look like an idiot with half my teams or more being completely garbage. So we're going to go ahead here and take Leonard Fournette. I know most people probably don't like him, but that upside in Jacksonville is a whole lot, especially since we saw him really ball out last season. So if you guys have ended up enjoying this video thus far, I would really enjoy if you guys could click that subscribe button down below. It's free, and I produce content every single day to really help you guys win that fantasy football championship. So I would really appreciate if you guys could click that button. It means a lot, and thank you very much to Tyler who made yesterday's video for me. So right now through 5 rounds, we have on our team just our first 4 picks, though. Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, Allen Robinson, and Leonard Fournette. So a pretty solid start to the draft, and just like I predicted, a lot of wide receivers are still here, but all the running backs are gone. Where has the rum gone? Shout out to Captain Jack Sparrow. So after Leonard Fournette came off the board to us, we saw Chris Carson, Jonathan Taylor, Odell Beckham Jr. After Odell, we see Melvin Gordon come off the board, followed by Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, really amazing value, even in a standard league, falling all the way until the 4th round. David Johnson, Mark Ingram, Juju Smith-Schuster, Le'Veon Bell, D.K. Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram, really solid value in the 5th round. Typically, we see him go around the 4th round, the early 4th round to the end of the 4th round. Typically, never see him fall into the 5th round. Amazing value there from Mark Andrews, especially in a standard league, because he's not a guy who's necessarily a ball hawk who I think is going to get a zillion catches, but he always scores them touchdowns. After that, we see DeAndre Swift and then David Montgomery. Picks I really like in those picks are Calvin Ridley. I really like DJ Moore, and I really like DK Metcalf. Picks I don't like, DeAndre Swift, I just don't see it. I was really high on Kerryon last year, and I saw what this offense is. They cannot commit to one running back, and if Kerryon Johnson stays healthy, I don't see any way DeAndre Swift's getting the ball a lot, and they only literally run the ball at like a 30 to 35% clip percentage per game. So why do you want that at all? I'd much rather just take a more high upside guy like David Montgomery or maybe even a guy like Cam Akers, Kareem Hunt in that spot. Now it is our turn to make our pick. Like I said, we have 2 running backs in our running back spot. We have 1 wide receiver, and our flex is already a running back. So I think we can go ahead and draft another wide receiver here. And then in the 6th round, just a couple of picks from now, draft yet another running back. So here, to me, the pick is easy, and that is Mr. Robert Woods. Now, Robert Woods is a guy who not a lot of people are super high on due to the fact that the beginning of last season for him was completely garbage. If you drafted him last year, likely you did not see the playoffs due to the fact that he sucked complete and utter ass last season. He was down on 2 knees for the first 9 games of the season, and then they committed after their bye week, I believe, which was week 9, so maybe it was 8 weeks and then 7 weeks of him with the double tight end set. I made a bunch of videos on Robert Woods, so he's a guy I really like. Once they committed to the 2 tight end set, which gives Jared Goff a lot more time to pass because that offensive line is bad, and then having 2 tight ends, 1 guy blocks so that you have more long time to throw the ball, and Robert Woods was really thriving in that scenario, and I think that's what we see all of 2020 from the LA Rams. So I think Robert Woods is a extreme value here in the 5th round. I would argue that Terry McLaurin, DJ Shark are also great picks here, but to me, Robert Woods is the guy, and that's who we're going to draft at the 509. After Robert Woods, we see T.Y. Hilton and Zach Ertz come off the board. So now it is time to make our next pick. So here we're probably going to be looking for a running back, like I said. So it's really here, it's between if you want more upside, if you'd prefer more safety. So if you're looking for the upside pick, you pick Cam Akers. Sure, he might be in a committee at the beginning of the year with Darrell Henderson, but I think he emerges past that. For Kareem Hunt, obviously this isn't a PPR league, so he won't be as good due to the fact that I like a lot of his value from catching the ball out of the backfield. So to me, the pick would be the more upside pick for me, which is Cam Akers of the LA Rams. Sure, he's a rookie, but I think it'll only take a couple of weeks for him to emerge ahead of Darrell Henderson. I don't like Devin Singletary due to the fact that I think Zach Moss is just going to take a bunch of his touches this season. I don't see him being the real workhorse there. I see it being more of a 55 to 45% snap share difference with those guys, with Devin Singletary obviously being the head honcho guy there, but not truly the head honcho because it's 55 to 45. So looking after that, we see a quarterback kind of a run. Kyler Murray followed by J.K. Dobbins, Dak Prescott very early for J.K. Dobbins, Darren Waller, Russell Wilson, Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, who I'm not really in favor of anymore, Devontae Parker, Deshaun Watson, Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Devin Singletary, Matt Ryan, Raheem Mostert, DJ Chark, Tyler Lockett. Now, In a lot of scenarios, this is what's going to happen. Someone's going to pick a quarterback, and then a bunch of guys after that are just going to shit their pants. They're like, oh, I need to get a quarterback. Don't join the run. Hop on the extreme value that you're going to be getting at the other positions here in the draft. I think that it is an idiot move to hop on those runs when you're going to be getting a lot more value at the other positions. Now, right now, through the 709, which is our pick, we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks come off the board. So only 2 teams don't have one, which is including me because we really like to wait on the quarterback position. So here, it's time to probably draft another wide receiver and then potentially go running back after that. We're going to wait on the quarterback position because it's a 10-team league and you can really wait and get a guy like Tom Brady, Danny Dimes, Matt Stafford later, who I think have a whole shit ton of upside. So I'm going to go ahead and draft our first player here, which is going to be wide receiver Terry McLaurin. I've talked TMC up all offseason long. Terry McLaurin is going to be a beast in Washington, the Washington football team, no longer the Redskins. I think it's just due to the fact that the volume is going to be king there for Terry McLaurin. He's clearly the alpha wide receiver there. He was the alpha last season in his rookie year, so I see no reason why he and Dwayne Haskins cannot improve their 2020 campaign and both look so much better, and the Washington football team to look a bit better. And I overall think the fact that their defense is so shit, sure, they got Chase Young in the draft, but that defense is not complete at all, and they're really going to be passing a lot of those games, especially against their NFC East opponents that, while aren't strong, they always play well against each other. So after we went ahead and drafted Mr. TMC Dynamite, Aaron Rodgers came off the board, followed by Deebo Samuel. If you guys have enjoyed thus far, please make sure to click that subscribe button. So now it is time to draft our running back here. We're going to go ahead and select probably the safer pick here, which is Kareem Hunt. I just think Ronald Jones has a bunch of upside there as well, but obviously Shady McCoy joining there doesn't really affect my opinion too much. So we're going to go ahead and draft Kareem Hunt, but I wouldn't argue going for a more upside pick here instead and go with Ronald Jones. But if Nick Chubb was to get hurt, Kareem Hunt would really be a beast this season. So after we saw Kareem Hunt, I'm going to read off all the players, and then we're going to go ahead and draft our next 2 picks. So after we went ahead and went with Mr. Kareem Karate Kick Hunt, we're going to go ahead and see that Darius Geis came off the board, which I don't like at all, followed by Rojo, Sony Michel, Hollywood Brown, Marlon Mack, Kerryon Johnson, Michael Gallup, AJ Green, Jordan Howard, Jarvis Landry, Keyshawn Vaughn, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd, Phillip Lindsay, CeeDee Lamb, and Julian Edelman. So now it's our time to make our pick here, and we're probably going to go ahead and secure our tight end. I like all these tight ends are perfectly fine if you wanted them, but I prefer Hayden Hurst. I want to make sure that I get him, so I'll probably draft him with my second pick. So here we're going to draft yet another wide receiver here and go ahead and select my main man, Marvin Jones. Super safe pick late. Sure, he'll miss a couple of games, but Matt Stafford looked elite early in last season. I think he returns to form after getting hurt 8 games into last season. So after we went ahead and selected Marvin Jones, Will Fuller came off the board, followed by Tevin Coleman. So now it's time to select our tight end. We're going to get Hayden Hurst. That upside in Atlanta is unreal. That team is going to be so pass-heavy, the most pass-heavy offense in the NFL last year. Mr. Austin Hooper got traded to the Browns, and he had over almost 100 targets in just 13 games last season, so I really think we see him emerge and look even better. Sure, we probably could have waited a couple of rounds to get him, but I want to make sure I get my guy, and you guys need to make sure that you get your guy in the draft. If you're really high on a player, you got to go ahead and maybe reach up a round or 2 to just guarantee that you get him. So after Hayden Hurst, we see Christian Kirk, and then Jerry Jeudy, Matt Breida, James White, McCole Hardman, Emmanuel Sanders, Henry Ruggs, John Brown, Darrell Henderson, Evan Ingram, Alexander Madison, Darius Slayton, Deontay Johnson, Mike Williams, Justin Jefferson, and Hunter Henry. Now it is time to select another running back or wide receiver. Here we're going to go ahead and go running back and get the guy that I was talking about earlier, Zach Moss. Definitely some big upside there in Buffalo, and if Devin Singletary was to go down, we could see him become the head honcho there. If you had Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray would be the easiest pick here, probably the best handcuff in fantasy football. After that, we see a team pick a defense, and then Sterling Shepard. So now we're going to go ahead and attack the wide receiver position with our final bench spot and stag Mr. Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller is a guy who I believe, if not getting injured, I think that he looks really fantastic this year. I understand that we already have Allen Robinson, but having 2 guys on the same team is perfectly fine in fantasy football. You don't have to worry really about it, as long as your whole team isn't just one football team, especially with a guy that may only be your flex every couple of weeks or just slot into the wide receiver 2 every couple of weeks. So after Anthony Miller, we see Rob Gronkowski, Austin Hooper, Latavius Murray, Carson Wentz, Jared Cook, Drew Brees, Tariq Cohen, Robbie Anderson, Duke Johnson, A.J. Dillon, Tony Pollard, Chase Edmonds, Boston Scott, Tom Brady, Justin Jackson, and Rashad Penny. So now it is time to go ahead and attack the quarterback position. And here it's an easy pick for me. It's going to be Matthew Stafford. Sure, I understand he has been injured in the past, but I think the guy is going to blow up this season. We saw the beginning of last season be absolutely explosive, looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I actually think we could see that a lot more this season. So now it's time to draft our kicker and defense. Pretty simple here. You're just going to go ahead and draft a defense playing a shitty offense week 1. So we are going to go ahead and get I think the Chargers, if they have not been taken yet, would be the pick here. Have they been taken? No, they haven't. The Chargers are playing up against Joe Burrow week 1 of his rookie year when he doesn't have a preseason, so he might be able to eat up a bit on there. I still think Joe Mixon could have a good game, and drafting a defense against your running back isn't necessarily the worst, considering every week you might have a player playing up against your defense. You just got to hope that player does good as well as the defense. So a bunch of kickers and defenses went off the board. So now we're going to go ahead and select our kicker. We're going to go with Matt Prater here. There's not really too much analysis for me. Actually, we're going to go with Kyrie Fairbairn. I am going to talk about kickers in the future, but for now, I don't find it as something super important for us to talk about in every single mock draft. So we got a C+ Fantasy Pros, but that's some fake news because we should have gotten an A because this team is excellent. So if we look at our team, we have Matt Stafford as our quarterback. Our 2 running backs are Joe Mixon and Austin Eckler. Our wide receivers are Robinson and Woods. Our tight end is Hayden Hurst. Our flex is Leonard Fournette. Our kicker and defense don't really matter. We have Cam Akers, Terry McLaurin, Kareem Hunt, Marvin Jones, Zach Moss, and Anthony Miller. So if you guys did end up enjoying this video, please make sure to click that subscribe button down below. I shall see you motherfuckers tomorrow with yet another heater of a video. I love you all. Good boy.